Today on Locked On Red Wings, World Junior Semifinals is a must-watch for Red Wings fans, and despite the recent skid, Detroit is still very much alive in the playoff race.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's a host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Today's episode, Scotty and I will be discussing the World Junior Championship Semifinals, as that is poised to begin today, or happen today, or will be over with, depending on what time on Thursday you're listening to this. So there's a big gap between when that semifinal game is going to finish and when the Red Wings play at 10:30 at night. So, Scotty, if you're a Red Wings fan, well, I mean, you're a Red Wings fan, obviously. But if the listeners are Red Wings fans, then these are must-watch hockey games, because these have some of the most high-profile Red Wings prospects playing in really important international competition with actual stakes. So if you're like I said, if you're a Red Wings fan, this is must watch.
Yeah, big time. I mean, this is really, I think the word I want to use is just cool. Like, it's so cool. Like, it's such a fun tournament, and seeing all of these higher profile Wings guys, prospects that is get an opportunity is really cool. Sandin-Pellikka obviously had the game winner in overtime for Sweden. There was a controversial penalty call there in overtime that some people are very vocal about as well. But it's been high intensity, high profile games, and seeing Wings players specifically, and we've kind of kept tabs on it as the tournament's been going along, seeing like Sandin-Pellikka, seeing Augustine, like seeing a handful of Red Wings guys be in, not only have the spotlight on them, but thrive with the spotlight on them is really cool. And it's going to be really fun. This is make or break time for a lot of these teams and countries, man. So it'll be super cool. Obviously, no Canada. That's the big talking point. And there's a couple of higher profile Wings guys that will not be continuing because they are on Canada, and Canada very disappointed. The home country is Canada for getting bounced early, didn't even make it out of groups. Not the result they were looking for. So no Danielson obviously going forward, but still, I mean, just a fantastic tournament so far. Really, really good hockey too.
Yeah, the quarterfinal loss by Canada to the Czech Republic was shocking. 11 seconds left in regulation, and it sucks for Red Wings fans if you wanted to watch more Nate Danielson. But I can't say I'm too upset. You just hate to see it. You just hate to see it when Canada gets eliminated. Oh, that's just terrible.
Sad.
Oh, it's just sad. But anyways, they move on. Czech does to play Sweden. And like you said, Axel Sandin-Pellikka, obviously overtime winner in their overtime quarterfinal game against the Swiss. And he had a near buzzer beater earlier in the game, either at the end of the first or second period, I believe, where the clock had just barely ran out when he scored. So it was kind of a nice, I wouldn't say retribution for him. That's not quite the adjective I want to use in the situation, but it was nice that it came back to him in a big moment and he was able to capitalize, especially if you're a Red Wings fan, because, he's got 1 goal, 2 assists through 5 games here at the tournament. He's looked absolutely stellar. He looks like just an offensive dynamo out there for Sweden. He's looked really good in the SHL all season long, despite being 18, 19 years old. So it makes sense that at the U20 World Juniors, he would look really freaking good as well. And then on the other side of it, you have Team USA playing Finland, I believe, in the other semifinal, and Trey Augustine, the second round pick for the Detroit Red Wings. He's been absolutely stellar. We've mentioned him a few times here on this podcast. He's been absolutely stellar for the Michigan State University for the Spartans, and he's been really great in this tournament. He only has 2 starts. He would have gotten more if he hadn't fallen ill, but in those 2 starts during pool play, he was great, including a 10-2 win, which we mentioned previously, a 10-2 win over the Team Slovakia, in which he made 38 saves on 40 shots. You would think like, oh, 10-2 game, he didn't face a lot of pressure. No, he faced a lot of shots, and he stood on his head. So much so that when NHL Network's recapping this game, one of the key things that they talk about is the fact that Trey Augustine was so standout. And when you win 10-2 and your goalie is still the standout performer on your hockey team, that's how you know you got someone special in net. So Trey Augustine, it's really nice. Obviously, we spent the last few years, Scotty, talking about Sebastian Cossa this, Sebastian Cossa that, watching his development. And he is developing. He's still he's still the number 1 goaltender in this prospect pool.
For sure.
But to have another guy coming out of that national team development program, Trey Augustine is at least, to have him go to Michigan State and just dominate, now go to World Juniors and look really good. And now I would imagine he didn't play in the quarterfinals. I would assume they were resting him for the semifinals and the finals. To see him have an opportunity in the semifinals, put up a great game. It really gets me excited. I love this. There wasn't a lot of fun stuff that happened, Scotty, when this team was like bottom of the barrel rebuilding. But the one thing we could always do was talk about the future, because the Red Wings always had high draft picks. We could always talk about who's to come, because the future's always exciting. Like, you can always get excited about the future. And Trey Augustine, that's what's happening right here. I mean, He's been really good, and I just get excited thinking about what he could become. Yeah,
prospects are fun because they could be anything. It could even be a boat, right? Like the Family Guy sketch. They could be anything, man, and that's what's so fun about it. And that's what, for as much heat as we have given hockey, and just fans in general have given hockey over the years about their lack of marketing and growing the game and trying to grow the game and whatnot. Now, one of the things they do get right is their involvement internationally with these kind of tournaments. They do a really good job pushing these out and marketing them and whatnot. So, yeah, man, it's fun. It's really fun. And like we've been talking about this whole time, there's a lot of fun wings still left in there too.
So that'll be 2 good games. That's 9:00 for Sweden and 1:30 for the United States. And you can catch those games on NHL Network. If you're in Canada, I believe it's TSN, or is it Sportsnet? I don't know. I'm not in Canada. You guys can Google it and figure it out. But in America, here, Metro Detroit's NHL Network. And hopefully you can catch the games if possible. If not, just check the box score after. They're going to be really exciting games. And then, best case scenario, USA versus Sweden in the finals. That would be a feast for Red Wings fans indeed.
It would be fun.
It would be. 9.52 save percentage, by the way. I don't think I read that off. Only in 2 games, but 9.52 save percentage for Trey Augustine combined in those 2 games. Only, 1.5 goals against, which means he let in 1 goal one game and 2 the other. So,
yeah. I mean, we talked about going into the tournament. We talked about if he had a good enough performance, he had a chance of going down as, one of the better goalies in the history of the country for World Juniors. So
absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to obviously switch gears here, talking about the Red Wings that are already Red Wings, already wearing the winged wheel, and not the guys who might be in the future, and about how this current team, the 2023-24 team, is not out of the playoff race yet, despite the recent skid. So we'll talk about that in segment 2 before previewing the LA Kings in segment 3. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. It's almost the halfway point of the NHL season. The Red Wings are just on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs, but they're not out of it yet. And regardless of where they are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number 1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you need to do is pick whether studs like Dylan Larkin, Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, Moritz Seider, Jake Wollman, who's been hot recently as well, record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Red Wings fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKDOWNNHL and you'll get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. You know, reading that Sleeper read, Scotty, it reminded me, I saw a stat today about Connor McDavid, about he's like 906 points or something ridiculous like that. And he's only 26 years old. And I just was like, you know, he's dominant, right? Like, you know, he's always going to be good for 100 plus points a season pretty much. And then you see something like that and you're like, holy smokes, this guy has over 900 points and he's still 3.5 years from being 30, which is like the halfway point of a lot of these guys' careers. It's just, obviously, as he gets past 30, he'll probably slow down a little bit. But just the fact that this incredible pace he's on every single year. And he started out slow this year and he's picked it back up. And I just wanted to take a minute to just be wowed by, I mean, there's good players, there's great players, there's elite players, and then there's Connor McDavid.
I saw the graphic. It was probably whenever they played their last game, and the Oilers had tweeted out, Connor McDavid started going into the game tonight, had this many points in the season. He currently has this many, and it was the end of the second period, and he had 5 more points than he had going into the game.
Yeah, he had crossed the 900 point threshold in that one game, and he crushed it. I think he went in, it was like 898, and he came out with 903.
Yeah,
remarkable. Had a 5-point night to get.
I tell people all the time. I'm sure I've said this on air before as well. You know, I've had the pleasure. Like I've seen Ohtani play in person, like pitch and hit. I've seen Mike Trout play. I've seen LeBron James play like live in person at the Palace a couple of times. Like I've seen like some of the best athletes in, you know, like that this generation, my generation of athletics like has to offer, and nothing even holds a candle to watching Connor McDavid play hockey live in person. Like it's obviously you see it on TV and you're like, wow, he's faster than everybody else. In person, I swear it's different, man. It is genuinely like no athlete I've ever seen. It looks like he's floating. Like it genuinely looks like he's floating. He just looks like he's different than everybody else on the ice. Nobody else that I've seen in person even holds a candle to what it feels like to watch him, you know, in person. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to like make this a Connor McDavid segment. We got to talk about Red Wings. But I saw a graphic by Big Head Hockey, right? And they were like, Connor McDavid has more career points than Brad Marchand, Ilya Kovalchuk, Jonathan Toews, Corey Perry. And then it ended like, they had a long list. And at the end, it was like, and he's 26 years old. And it's like, what?
Remarkable.
Anyways, Detroit Red Wings, you know, they have been, as it's well documented by us, and we've been, you know, fairly, I don't want to say we've been negative. I think we've been realistic. Like we've been calling out the problems and why we believe that they're struggling right now. And it, like I said, well documented by us why this is happening. But despite that, the Red Wings, and I said this on yesterday's episode, talking about the win over the San Jose Sharks, despite all that, they're still very much in the playoff race. I've been seeing a lot of comments recently, you know, in our YouTube comments, on X, on Twitter, whatever you want to call it, about how the season's a bust. The season's over. And it's like, yeah, they've been playing really bad lately. And that all that padding that they had built up is completely gone. But that doesn't mean the season's over. They're currently 2 points out of the final playoff spot. And guess what? They're 3 points behind the third divisional spot.
Yeah.
The other teams in this division, while the Red Wings are struggling, are also struggling. One, just to make Red Wings fans feel a little bit good about themselves before we get into this, Ottawa Senators have 28 points on the season. They did not get the new head coach bump that a lot of teams see. They did not. They struggled again on Wednesday night. Tampa Bay Lightning lost to
Did you see that graphic of most productive lines on the season in the NHL.
I
There's
have
this
not.
huge graph, and it was most productive lines based on minutes and expected goals for. And like all of the best lines in that have been used this season, X amount of times, whatever the minimum was, were either McDavid or Crosby lines. Which is also remarkable that for as long as Crosby's been in the NHL, that's still the impact he has. But it was both of those guys had like 3 or 4 different 2 or 3 probably line combinations that were way up in the upper right and were clearly better than everybody else. And then Ottawa had just I want to say 2 of like the least productive lines in the entire NHL. I mean, this is now we're in the new year, right? The calendar's flipped over. This is no longer like I always make fun of Ottawa for getting off to the patented slow start. Like this is no longer that. This is just really, really a train wreck season for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Buffalo's been struggling a lot too. Pat myself on the back because I called a little bit of regression by them. They're 7th in division. They're 34 points. Montreal 37 points. They're having a nice season too. I mean, obviously they're not going to make the playoffs, but for them to this quickly be playing as well as they are is pretty impressive. We thought they were a couple years away. We thought they were confidently going to be the bottom of the division. Now, whether or not playing this well will help or hinder them in the long run is, still left up to debate, but still it's really impressive what Marty St. Louis has been able to do with a roster that is largely comprised of like youth. And they're especially with a team that's so close to the cap because of all the buyouts and LTIRs. Like going into the offseason, they had no cap space despite being a rebuilding team. So they've been impressive. But the Lightning are 1 spot again above the Red Wings in the standings. Red Wings 5th, Lightning 4th. They lost to the Jets the other day. You look fine, Scott. I don't know what that was about.
Dude, it's like fuzzy for me. I don't know why.
You look fine to me, but you always look good.
I'm glad, but it's weird. Maybe my eyes are just messed up. Anyway.
Probably. Lightning have 41 points. Red Wings have 40 points. The Maple Leafs, who are 3rd in the division, have 43 points. Now, after that, you have the Panthers with 48. And pat myself on the back again. I called that they would probably I said that they would have a rebound year in standings.
Up this episode,
every once in a while, I think I deserve to get. I tear myself down quite a bit. I think I deserve to get myself up. I mean, and if you want to tear me down, right? Like I predicted the Boston fall to the wild card, and here they are at the top of the division again with 52 points. But the Red Wings are still very much in the divisional race. Like that is crazy, despite this skid. They're even more so in the wild card race, right? But the divisional race, that 3rd spot in the division is still up for grabs. So I mentioned it on yesterday's episode, right? Like now the Red Wings having beaten the San Jose Sharks, barely squeezing it out, but beating the San Jose Sharks, have an opportunity to do the incredible, beat the LA Kings, string together a couple of wins, build the confidence, build the momentum, and climb your way back into that race. And I say climb their way back in like they're not still in it, because again, they're only 3 points behind 3rd in the division, which is very attainable. Like if the Leafs lose a couple games and the Wings, I'm not saying they will, like this is all based on a hypothetical, but if the Red Wings were to get 4 out of 6 points on this road trip between LA and now Anaheim for the last 2, or they were to do the unfathomable and get all 6, like now all of a sudden, despite the skid, you're right there back 3rd in the division, you're right back there in the wild card spot. So there's been a lot of doom and gloom online, and some of it from us. Like yesterday, we were talking about the win they lost because they didn't look very good. But despite all, I just want to say just have a little bit more cautious optimism. Let's say cautious optimism, because I'm not going to tell you guys to turn your blinders on, and you shouldn't. You should never turn your blinders on. But recognize that despite the skid, sometimes, usually in the preseason, we get the blinders on a little bit.
Yeah, right. We're allowed to in the lead up to opening night. But
bingo. I'm just saying that they're not out of this yet. And we've seen that they're capable of playing good hockey and going on good runs. They do a mini run. They're back in it. And if they can just go from there to just playing, they don't have to win 6 in a row and then lose 6 in a row. But if you win 6 out of your 10 or 5 out of 10 or, 4 regulation losses and 1 overtime loss, like at least in that situation, you're keeping yourself in the race. And that's all I'm asking, is that they continue to keep themselves in the race. And they're very capable of that because they're not out of it yet.
Yeah, there's still so much hockey to be played, obviously, which is super cliche, but it's super true. There's
over half a season.
Right. We haven't even hit the All-Star break. We still have a long way to go. Obviously, a deadline looming that we will certainly talk a lot more about as we get closer to that date. Like, there's still a lot going on, and there's a lot of opportunity for the Wings. I think this is I feel like there is a huge difference between, like, the best way I heard it described was by Chris Brown, who is a host for Motor City Metrics, and he explained, like, a lot
Not
of
that
people
Chris.
have football reactions to, and he was talking about baseball. Like, that's such a difference in length of season that you, like, can't do that as far as season outlook, right? And that very much applies to, 82 game season is still pretty long. So I think that with where the Wings are at right now, this is not, oh, they're on a losing skid. The season's completely over. There's plenty of stuff that they still need to work on. There's plenty of areas for concern that we highlight all the time. But that does come with keeping in the back of your mind, like, yeah, if you even go on like a 3-game win streak, you're kind of back in it. You know what I mean? Like, you're back in the playoff picture, meaning, right? It's not even that much of a, they have to win like 7 of their next 10 or 8 of their next 10 to really reestablish themselves. Like, no, if they want a W3, like, they're kind of right back in that area, especially with a loss from Tampa. So yeah, man, this is there's very much still a long way to go, and there's still a lot of reasons to watch, as stressful as it has been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is how the seasons go. Like, there's gonna be dips. And there's going to be valleys. Right now, the Red Wings are hopefully on the upside of coming out of a valley, as now they've strung together a few wins in their last 6. They're 3-3 in their last 6, which isn't great, but it is improvement over where they were at. So this is an opportunity the Red Wings have here on the West Coast. Stealing games on the road is huge, especially when one of those games is against one of the toughest opponents in the NHL and then followed by one of the weakest opponents in the NHL.
Yeah.
I mean, you could realistically, I think they should come away with 4 points on this road trip. And if they can come away with 6, like I said, you're right back in it. And I am a very happy camper.
That's good. That's all I care about.
That's all.
You being a happy camper.
Thanks, buddy. We're going to head into segment 3. And when we come back, previewing the matchup against the Los Angeles Kings. Stay tuned. Got to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. The NFL season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an easy chip shot. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are going to preview the LA Kings. And, we talked a lot there in segment 2 about how if the Red Wings can string together a couple wins, then they'll be right back in this, or I guess more so in it than they already are, like neck and neck with these teams. But that's a tall order when you're facing down the LA Kings at the Staples. It's not called the Staples Center anymore. It's not like Crypto something.
Crypto.com Arena, Brian.
Staples Center was so much better. Crypto.com. That's so dumb. Anyways, the LA Kings are one of the best teams in the league in the standings and in pretty much every conceivable analytic. Scotty, they are the 6th best team at 5-on-5 in expected goals for percentage. They are the best team in they're the 6th best team in expected goals for, the best team in expected goals against, and the 2nd best team in the league at expected goals for percentage. They have the fewest shot attempts allowed in the league, which is Corsi against, and they have the 8th most shot attempts for in the league, putting them at 2nd in Corsi for percentage as well. On top of that, I believe they have the best penalty kill in the league and a team save percentage actually well above 900, which is rare in the league this year. This is a complete package of a hockey team, and I feel the Kings get pretty heavily overlooked in the national media because of that East Coast bias, because of the time zone difference, where they don't get talked a lot about because in East Coast time, They're playing at 10:30 at night, like the Red Wings are today. By the time you're listening to this is a juggernaut of a hockey team, and it's a tall order. But Scotty, we've seen it. This team very much has the capability of playing up to their competition. Good Lord.
Competition, man. Yeah, it's all about competition. It's the Kings, I mean, just a few more like numbers to throw at you. They are fourth in the NHL in team save percentage. They are first in goals against, just straight up goals against and goals against average. They are in first place. They average 2.3 goals against a game. That is remarkable. The Wings are 26th in that stat with 3.2. And yeah, like the offense has been is a good unit, right? They're 10th in goals for, 20th in the power play, maybe somewhat of a quote unquote weakness there, not as good as the rest. But they make their mark, as you said. They do not allow shots, and their goaltending has been really solid on top of that. This is a perfect marriage of defense and goaltending that has led to a team that just genuinely does not allow goals. And they're that on top of having then a top 10 offense in the league, even if it is, 9th or 10th, if it's closer to that area, that's all you need when you're allowing 2 goals a game. You don't need like the most prolific high power. And again, I'm not even saying it's a bad unit. Like, I mean, they very much, again, top 10 unit. So yeah, just a fantastic team, like genuine team too. I mean, top to bottom, a really deep unit. Have a lot of youth on their team too. This has kind of been one of the teams that the last, I don't know, I want to say maybe since the Byfield draft that everybody's kind of been like, oh, like look out, they might have a good year. And I made a mistake earlier in the year. I don't think I gave nearly enough credit. I had made some passing comment about how Byfield had gotten off to a slow start to his career. Like he's been a lot better this season. I mean, they really are firing on all cylinders. And yeah, this is, again, in LA on top of that. It's going to be a tall order. And I don't even know if I answered your original question. But yeah, this is not very, very far from a gimme. The Red Wings are pretty hefty underdogs in this one.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, we saw against Boston. I mean, 3 of the 4 games they played against the Bruins this season.
Right. That was your original question. Yeah,
they've played they've played very well against the Bruins this season. The Bruins are one of the better teams. Of course, they've played bad against other good teams as well. But you gotta. I don't want to say you gotta have faith, right? Because they haven't necessarily earned the faith recently. But you look at what they've done recently. They won against the Predators. They played a very good game against the Bruins that they lost, and then they wasn't a great game, but they eked out a win. I'm putting my hope in that the tides are possibly turning into the Red Wings' favor. But the tides turning doesn't guarantee you a win against the LA Kings, but I'm hoping that it guarantees at least a concerted effort to try and beat this team. Because like we went through all the analytics, they're one of the best teams in the league. They're getting scoring 6-7 players deep on their offense. And defense as well. I mean, Anze Kopitar's got 34 and 34. Kemp's got 33 and 34. Fiala, 31 and 34. Byfield, like you mentioned, 26 and 34. I mean,
Trevor Moore, fantastic season. I mean, you already mentioned Kopitar. Like, just top to bottom, man. Just a really, really deep team.
And then you look at the goaltending, right? I mean, Cam Talbot is out here with a 925 save percentage this season. That is crazy. And yeah, he's definitely been insulated a ton by how good the defense in front of him. Again, the fewest shot attempts in the league that this team has seen. So they do a fantastic job of insulating them. And they also take the least amount of penalties in the league. They have, I think, 130 penalties taken, which is fewest in the league compared to the Red Wings' second most, 167 taken. So he's not put in disadvantageous situations, Cam Talbot, and that being he's not down a man a whole lot. And they just, in general, possess the puck and suppress shots. So he's never really facing too much grade A scoring chances. But, you still got to make the saves, right? And despite all that, he's got a 925. I said, despite's not the correct word. It's on top of all that.
In addition to
all of that, he's still got a 925 save percentage, which is crazy good. It's crazy good any year, but it's crazy good in a year where the league save percentage is like 902 or whatever it is. It's lowering week by week. So, I mean, the only area where this team does not excel is their power play. They're 20th in the league on power play. And you're thinking, okay, well, the Red Wings got a pretty solid power play. They're 13th in the league. They might be able to take advantage on the special teams front, but they have the best penalty kill in the league. So, and like I said, they take the fewest penalties. So you might only get like one opportunity, if that. It's like, okay, well, if you're trying to beat them by not allowing goals when they have a power play, that's not going to work. So, I mean, the Red Wings have just got to play. I've said it against the Bruins, and I'm going to say it again against the Kings, but they've got to play the best version of themselves if they want to compete.
Yeah, man, it's wild. The Wings penalty kill has been solid this year. It's not, they've been like 12th or 13th, kind of sat around. It's been climbing.
It's been climbing, yes.
And they are just under 81%. And the Kings, who have the best, are like almost 7% better than the Detroit Red Wings. So just again, kind of they're closer to 90 than we are to them. So very, very solid unit, obviously very solid penalty kill. And yeah, certainly again, reiterating again, in LA is certainly going to make things tougher as well. But we've had this conversation where like, oh, really big opponent. If you can just play competitive, give yourself a chance, that'd be good. And a lot of the times we've said that, they've gone out there and played really, really solid hockey and made it a really close game. So this is a time where I don't mind you playing to your competition, but obviously the give and take of that is what happened on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the penalty kill because it has been getting better. It's currently ranked 13th as well. So the Red Wings have the 13th ranked power play and the 13th best ranked penalty kill as well. In the last 11 games, Scotty, the Red Wings have allowed one power play goal against. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I said 13. I got the number 13 segment. In the last 11 games, they have one power play goal against. That is really good. The penalty kill is showing definite signs of growth. At one point, I think they were in the low 20s, and they've climbed all the way back up to 13th in the league. So just during these struggles, it's hard to find like shining moments. We've seen Patrick Kane come alive. Recently, we've seen Jake Wellman and Moritz Seider bounce back. But throughout this entire skid, the penalty kill is the one thing that's actually been doing a lot better. The 5-on-5 play, that has been continued to be a major struggle.
Correct.
So if there's anything you can be confident in right now, it's the penalty kill. Of course, I say that, and that means that the 20th ranked power play in the LA Kings is going to pot 3 on us. But that's the pessimist in me. Sorry, guys. Like that's about it, though, right? I mean, they're a healthy team too. They have, I think, 2 injuries, but no one of like serious note. So, like I said, you got to play your best version of yourself if you want to win.
Let's do that hockey.
Let's do that hockey. Scotty, you got any final thoughts?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. We're back with a new episode to recap this one. Oh my God, it's gonna be like another 1 a.m.er.
Yes, sir.
At least the Sunday game in Anaheim's at 8 o'clock because they're playing a matinee game in Anaheim. So,
word
bless. Just got to get through tomorrow or today. I don't know. Whenever people are listening to this, just got to get through it. We'll power through. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.